Hey everyone, it's me. Once again, same clothes, same day, not same video, but you know what I mean. Same time, place. Here we go. So what are we talking about today? Well, it's called game preservation. Now, what is game preservation for those who don't know? Well, for you see, it's when you basically own a game and you take care of it. Like just take care of it very well, keep it on its shelf as not as it should be, but make sure you just keep the disc, the manual and inserts in this box like all complete in good shape for years to come. So when you play it in say 2040 or so, which is going to be weird to say when that time comes, it will still probably work if it's a disc. I'm not sure how long it'll take for the older discs from the 90s to erode, but I hope it's not anytime soon because you spend a pretty penny on some of these games. Now, there are different types of games that need to be preserved. One of the most important is the rare games. Like, for example, Magic Knight Rayearth. Like, there's not many copies of this. Only about 15,000 were ever produced, and you have to think about it. At some point in time, someone has broken their game, lost it, ripped out the manual. I don't know why you rip out the manual, but manual got ripped up or it's lost. I was not very good with games when I was younger. I wish I was. And I had a sealed copy of Mario Land, and I probably would have made a decent buck off that, but I was stupid and opened it. Whoopsies. So yeah, like things like Magic Knight Rayearth, not having a high production rate. I mean, you could get the Japanese version, and it's thankfully backed up online. The English version is backed up online for people to play, and that's great because apparently they had a source code crash or corruption when they were done developing the game originally. So I was like, oh, okay. So Working Designs went out of their way to reprogram the broken parts of the game, and I was like, that's great, So that's kind of like a company preserving the game too. So it could have been lost to time, but it wasn't. And then like another game that, for example, needs to be remade, or it's also a rare game, but it needs to be remade in order to be available to the modern public, and that's Panzer Dragoon Saga. Now, Panzer Dragoon Saga is firstly an incredible game, and then two, incredibly rare. It did not have a massive, shelf life. Only 30,000 copies or so in North America, and I think about like 1,000 or so in Europe. It was not a lot. Things like this need to be preserved as well for its, again, rarity, and just it makes sense. Like, if you ever want to back these games up, I don't know if you can, but I imagine someday in the future, if you can't do it right now, I'm sure people can, because they've taken the ISOs or the ROMs of these games and put them up online. So if you ever want to like preserve your game on your computer or something like that, or just want to have a piece of history, just want to hold on to it and make sure it's safe for people in the future to ever try it. People that are growing up now with the Xbox, Series and PlayStation 5. I have to say that because I'm not used to us being out of the PS4 generation. So, people like that, they'll be able to finally go back and try some of these classics because we took care of them. And sure, they're going to be going up in price anyway, but regardless, they still exist. And if you're lucky, you can find a good deal. So, yeah, that's kind of the big deal about game preservation. They're very fragile pieces of media, and I don't know, just they can't be used on other devices very easily, like with Saturn games. Like, this disc can only be played on this certain hardware, and there's no other way for it. There's no backwards compatibility with the Dreamcast, which would have been really, really smart, but that's just me. I don't know, I'm not a console designer, so what do I know? Or even Sega CD. That's a great example of it being tied to a piece of hardware that is not incredibly easy to find cheaply. So you have to get a Sega Genesis firstly, then get a Sega CD, have it powered up through 2 power adapters, and have a video cable being swapped around, all that. It's a pain in the ass. Because I have a 32X, and it's basically the same fucking thing, and that thing sucks to set up. But if it had, that's why systems that have backwards compatibility I really like, because not only do we have to keep the software preserved, the hardware itself needs to be preserved, and that's even harder because anything with discs and lasers, shit like that, it needs to have a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, is what I'm trying to say, and it could break easily, very easily. Like not really very easily, but it breaks faster than say a cartridge-based system, from the Atari all the way up to the N64 kind of thing. Those will last longer, so because there's less moving parts. And my Dreamcast is a great example of something that just died. And I've had that since 2004, and that model was produced in around 99 or 2000. So it's like, fuck. It lasted 21 years, or maybe around 19, because I think it stopped working around 2019. I just forgot. I forgot that it was broken, and I didn't realize I could fix it so easily. And that's where people come in to take care of the consoles. Systems from like Atari and right up to the Saturn era or PS1 era, even actually GameCube and PS2 era. Those consoles are gonna break, eventually within 20 years, 30 years maybe. So people need to somehow, I know they're stepping up with some parts being replaceable, but they need to find a way to make more parts for these old units to keep them alive. More disk drives, which exist, and for the Saturn specifically, we need more cartridge slots to be made, because the cartridge slot in the back of the Saturn is not reliable in some ways, so that's unfortunate. And yeah, that's pretty much it with the hardware. Just it sucks that games can only be played on certain pieces of hardware, because it would just be so much more convenient if there was a console out there that could. I mean, I imagine one day it's going to happen. One day there should be like a console that could play pretty much any generation of gaming, from Atari all the way up to for classic stuff, probably all the way up to the PS2 and GameCube and Xbox era. Just a console that can play all of that. It'd probably cost an arm and a leg, maybe. But just give us the option for some type of glorified emulation box, because again, when these games erode away, we'll have them on little flash cards or SD cards just to load them up off the system hardware. So there's always that if the disc readers finally die out, or they're all not being made, for example. But I don't know. What do you guys think of game preservation? It's kind of a hard topic to stay on, because there's so many aspects you have to think about, and even my rambling is a little bit is very unscripted, so I'm like kind of tripping on my own words here. But what are you gonna do? So yeah, that was my video on game preservation. And again, what do you guys think in the comments? Tell me. I'm curious, because I think it's very important. I didn't think it was important until years later, until I got old enough. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Anyway, I'm Alex, and I'll be seeing you next time. Farewell.